nice to meet you, Mr. Chair. I'm Billy Bishoff, the president of the Garrett County Farm Bureau and the Energy and Property Coalition. How I perceive risk and how everybody else in this room perceives risk is a little bit different. And that's why we created the Marcellus Shale Safe Drilling Initiative, and they spent 3.5 years trying to work through the science of this process and establish whether or not we could do it safely with an acceptable amount of risk, which might be comparable to, say, coal mining or some similar activity. And they determined that we could. I would like you to stick with the process and allow regulations to be established, and let's give this process a try. We are fully on board with studying. We feel that is an integral part of what MDE does, and they need to understand what they're doing as they do it, which they have spent time working on, and they need to study it after we start so they can continue to get better at it.
You're just going to try it out and then see what happens. And I think before we just try something, we need to actually learn a little bit more about it before we try it out on somebody else's dime.
Just because someone thinks there might be a problem does not mean there is a problem. I have never heard about emissions from shale gas being a problem, but I've also never heard about the emissions from coal-fired plants being a problem. So I would have to wait until there was some
For organic
farming. So I think we need to look at some science on that, but just because they think there might be a problem does not mean there's a real problem.
I'm trying to understand that I heard correctly, that you don't believe, the gentleman on the right, that coal contributes to air emissions? Is that what you had said?
Have you ever heard an issue where someone was denied an organic permit because their farm was located in a region that had coal-producing power plants?
So you're just referring to organic?
Just the organic. That was the topic on the table.
Mr. Bischoff, you had indicated, and others have in previous testimony, that it's possible that an organic farm could lose its organic status as a result of hydraulic fracturing, emissions, water nearby that farm. Is that correct?
I believe that hydraulic fracturing is taking place in 24 states. It has been around since the early 90s. So it is a very large industry over a very large geographic industry, and I have never heard of anybody being denied an organic certification because of shale gas production. Have you?
And Doug, I'd be more than happy to contact some of our contacts at the USDA to see if that's true or not, but on record, I don't have any knowledge of any other organic operations around the country being denied certification or from the USDA.
Okay, and the reason I asked this particular question is because you had previously in your testimony said we should try it out, and that to me is a little, if I'm an organic farmer, that to me is an extremely troubling statement that we're going to try it out, because if their farm can no longer be certified as organic, then you've tried it out at their expense, and that's the point of my question as to whether, and I would like to follow up with the Farm Bureau to figure out exactly what the truth is behind that, because that's just another example of something that I personally find very, very concerning, because your rights end where mine begin, and if this is the case and if this is possible, which actually is the first that I've heard of it, Mr. Chair, then I find that even another reason to study this issue. Thank you.
MDE is in charge of maintaining air quality to a point that it is acceptable in the neighborhood for any purpose, not just the organic farming.